I serve the dead. I have served the dead for as long as I can remember. When breath still moved in my chest, I catalogued the humans of my vampire lord's lands. So skilled was I that I could find any mortal who tried to hide from my master's hunger, whether that be a cowardly wretch hiding in some forgotten corner of a forest, or foolish parents protecting their child. So successful was I in ferreting out the truth that Lord Nagash himself took notice. With one look, he judged me suitable for his purposes, and with barely a flick of his finger, I died. And when breath left me one final time, I was reborn in undeath, my useless flesh stripped from my form, leaving a skeletal servant, one authorized to observe the armies of my lord Nagash and see what treachery may be afoot. Which led me to you, Death Mage. Your scheme was not noticed by most, which is fair. What is the loss of one or two zombies when there are so many others to use? But there was a pattern to the loss, a pattern that blazed in my mind clearer than any fire. Through that pattern, I found you. Those zombies, crude as they are, make ideal servants for manual labor, ideal for digging up rare artifacts. Artifacts that rightfully belong to Lord Nagash. Yet you chose to keep it secret, chose to keep its knowledge and possible powers to yourself, and that I cannot abide. You will die, Necromancer, but do not worry. You will be with your precious zombies once again, although not as a master, but as a peer, serving in their endless ranks like so many of Nagash's tools. But I am not without mercy. As your body mindlessly toils, your soul will be intact, trapped within your rotting mind, hopefully giving you plenty of time to think over your failures. When Chaos first came to the realms with its demonic and mortal slaves, Nagash fought against them as much as any other god. But, despite his great powers, Nagash was laid low, the hated champion of Chaos Archaon himself shattering his physical form. Still, something like the death of the physical would not stop one such as Nagash. In spirit he waited, as patient as death, for his time to rise once more. Even centuries later, when the Stormcast of the God King came to liberate the realms, Nagash took his own counsel, for he had no urge to listen to the God King Sigmar calls for alliance. Now, over a century after the birth of what the foolish call the Age of Sigmar, Nagash begins his march to war, marshaling his forces so he may claim all under his rule and strike down those that are deserving of his wrath. And many are deserving of this wrath, for to Nagash, all souls that cross the mortal coil belong to him, and many are guilty of taking what is his. Whether that be the God King Sigmar, who takes Nagash's prized souls to forge his Stormcast Eternals, or the elven gods who take the souls of elves for their own purposes. Any who deny him his due has only one fate: to die and become another soldier in his army of mindless undead. Nagash is the master of undeath, an undisputed ruler of the realm of death, Shyish. His power of sorcery is matched by few, and of those that do, they would still hesitate to try. Collected in his 9 books, repository of endless magical lore, he casts spells that could shake the very foundation of the realms themselves. However, Nagash does not lead his forces alone, for leading such endless hordes would tax even his vast power. For that, he relies on his Mortarks, his undead generals. Manipulative and insidious, the vampire noble Neferata is Nagash's Mortark of blood. Through her legion, she corrupts mortal lands by use of blood cults, necromantic heresies, and vampire covens, using such manipulations to ready those mortal lands for destruction by the legions of Nagash. No being is as distrusted as Manfred von Karstein, a vampire of endless ambitions. Betrayal and greed is in his very blood. Yet, despite this, Nagash keeps the arid vampire lord as his Mortarch of Night, for although he is treacherous, he is also extremely effective, possessing a cunning and a mastery of war that has toppled armies and broken sieges in brilliant master strokes. His most loyal and oldest servant, Arkan the Black, is Nagash's Mortarch of Sacrament. Second only to Nagash in the necromantic arts, he leads his legion with waves of magical power. With his black disciples, powerful necromancers eager to learn from the ancient Mortarch, he summons hordes of undead while using necromantic blight to turn enemy forces into dust. Below these three are the various forces of death, all raised or built to march to Nagash's undead drum. The Morghast are undead creations, but to compare them to a simple zombie or skeleton is like comparing a god to a child's toy. These beings are crafted by the sorcery and artistry of Nagash himself, beings of strength and power that can destroy the most powerful of foes with ease. The Morghast harbingers are enforcers of his dark will, wielding spirit halberds or swords in each hand. They are a shock to any foe they face, as they rip into the thickest clusters of Nagash's enemies, making short work of anything in their way. The Morghast are of the Legion leaders, bodyguards, and custodians, ensuring the safety of the Legion's generals as they go to war, and slaying anyone who would dare attack their charge. Although these creatures can serve the Mortarch or other undead generals, their ultimate loyalty is to Nagash, using their position to observe their charge, looking for any sign of treachery, and casting down anyone who would go against Nagash's will. The Soul Blight vampires are Nagash's most fearsome soldiers, former mortals gripped with the Soul Blight curse. They crave the blood of the living, blood that gives them supernatural strength and powers that make short work of most foes, abilities that convinces them that all mortals should serve under their rule. And through them Nagash, of course. Spiritual cast-offs of the deceased, the night haunts are the innumerable spirits that haunt the lands, shattered remnants of the mortals they once were. These ethereal forms envelop the enemy in chill, as cursed blades rip flesh from the hated living. Marching towards their foe with fleshless feet and haunting rhythm are the forces of the death rattles. Mindless skeletons move towards the enemy with a singular purpose, while their warlords command them with the skill and intelligence they once had in life, forming one of the most disciplined and relentless forces in the realms. Although the forces of the legions are primarily the dead, there are many who still breathe who serve Nagash. These death mages control mindless zombies and simple undead beasts to attack the legion's foes, using their vast numbers and mindless nature to overwhelm the enemy. Humanoids aren't the only creatures under Nagash's heel. Formerly majestic dragons and other mighty creatures now serve the legions. Although their forms are now rotted caricatures of their former selves, they are no less effective. These beasts of the grave ripping apart anything in their path. To be a servant of the legions of Nagash is to serve death itself, to slay your enemies with the remnants of the living and bring them into your armies of the dead. Hey guys, this is Arvandus and I hope you enjoyed this video about the legions of Nagash. If you like it, please like, subscribe, and comment, and if you really like it, consider giving to my Patreon. With the extra money, it gives me the time I need to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening and see you next time.